Even though I have this very fancy set of Bluetooth headphones, I am not using the Bluetooth. Instead, I'm using a cable. I don't know if you knew this, but when you use Bluetooth with your computer, it induces about a 60 millisecond lag between what the camera sees and what people hear. So if you find yourself out of sync with your Zoom presence, try using a wired set of headphones where the microphone is. As it happens, I'm using the mic on this camera. This fancy Bluetooth, very expensive. And if you plug it in, you can't use the microphone. It's only the headphones. So I'm actually using the camera on the mic, the mic on the camera. So good morning, everybody. Clearly, it's too early for me because I'm having trouble getting the words out. I don't know about you. As we do in all classes, we begin with review. So can I help you with anything that we've done so far, including perhaps going over parts of the reading?
You know what? I think a question I have is, can you see if that we did the reading?
Yes, I should be able to. If you give me a moment, I'll check. And so I'm going to be looking around the screen, but not projecting what I'm looking at. So please forgive me. Okay, if you just joined, I'm looking to make sure that your work on the book is being reported to me. So let's see, entire class. And chapter 1. And I see that you have done, Colin, 100% of the reading. Okay.
Okay, good.
And I see quite a few people have done either 100% of the reading or some part of the reading. I am not seeing anyone who has 0%. That's good, but I am seeing some people with very low percentage. So the reading is due tonight, I believe. Is that right, Colin? So please get that reading done. Okay. Very good. I sent a message about Discord. The computer science department does maintain a Discord server, and into the chat has gone an invitation link if you're interested. On Thursday nights, the computer science department has what we call our barbecue from 7 to 9 p.m. When we were able to meet together in the physical world, we would have we would have pizza. It was a party. It was a party in your mouth. We would have pizza, and people would get together to work together, to commune, to be friendly, whatever. So since we can't do that in physical presence, we do it on Discord Thursday nights on the server whose link that I just provided in the chat. And professors do attend. I will attend from 7 to 9. It's an opportunity to get some personal help. Discord, as you might know, supports real-time audio conversation and screen sharing. So I could actually help if you have questions. Okay. Now, about questions, is there anything from the reading that you'd like to go over? Okay, remember everybody, it's my job to teach and your job to radiate back at me. So I can tell that my words are making sense. So no one have questions?
I guess this isn't so much about the content, but for the challenge questions on the homework, I thought that we had to have those like three apostrophes to like start entering code. But I had problems with that. So I just deleted all of it and started from there, and that worked. What were the apostrophes for to start code?
Okay, why don't I bring up something from the Zy book so we could look at it directly. Let's see, let's try, oh, I don't know, chapter 1.9. I don't know, let's make sure that, no, it doesn't have any challenges. So let's go find another chapter. Again, I understand that I'm not showing you my screen yet. I will. How about 1.10? No, there's no challenges there. Could you give me a chapter to look at, Sydney?
Yeah, I can look for one. It was, I don't know, maybe 1.3.
Okay, I'm in
1.2.
1.3. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let me begin showing the screen here. And okay, so what you see here is for each challenge activity, they'll spend some words describing what it is they want you to do, and they'll give you some sample output. In this case, what they're asking you to do is to render this figure 8 using asterisks. Now, where Sydney's question is coming from is these three balanced on either side, these three single quotes. Okay, and so there's a little bit of confusion, Sydney. The three single quotes together is kind of like a comment. Python will ignore what's inside the three single quotes. So the reason why this is here is they're saying, hey, you see this line here? This is where you write your code. So yes, you do delete it. And then you would have the opportunity to put in your own code. So for instance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, balance it out, and then print, asterisk, and then apparently 1, 2, 3, and is this in the right place? Yes. Okay. And this one is the same as that line, and this one is the same as that line, and this one is the same as that line. Okay, let's try that. Awesome. Okay, so Sydney, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I thought that we had to like indicate that we were starting to type code or something, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that the three single quotes with write your code here was just a comment saying this is where you write your code, but you can erase that and add your code. Okay. Anybody have any other questions we can go over? All right. There are some things that I would like to review. So let's see if I can do that. If you recall, we were working on something in class. And yeah, so that something kind of looked like this. This was the code that I was demonstrating as it happens for the second class of the day. But this is the code that demonstrated use of the if statement. And I'd like to just remind you that you can have an if statement on its own. So I'll type it down here. So if this is an example, if num is equal to 19 Python statements here. And there could be more than one as long as they're indented to the same level, more here. Okay, so that is a complete if statement. So if num is 19, lines 16 and 17 will be executed. Optionally, so this says if something is true, do what's nested underneath, otherwise skip it all. You can optionally add else, and these lines will execute only if num is not 19. So in the if and the else, you have two paths out of the decision diamond. The test, you're testing in the test, you're testing to see if num is 19. And then there are two paths out now. Before there was just one. You can only take one of those two paths. We also learned that if you want to express mutually exclusive choices, just more than one, you can say if, and it's like an else in that it only is executed if what's above it was false. But it's also adding a new diamond decision box. So let's say if num is 17, do these statements for 17. And you can have as many of those as you want. Whoops. Okay, num equals 15. So do these statements when num is 15. Okay, so this is a review of the family of statements relating to if. Does anybody have any questions about the if statement?
Can you only have one else statement?
Correct. And it's 0 or 1 else statements. So the else is always optional. But if present, it has to be at the end of an if-elif chain, and there can be only one of them. Now, do keep in mind that within each block of indented statements, there could be more if statements. For example, if today equals Tuesday, yay Tuesday, and there could be an else here. Okay, so Sydney, you can within the larger sense of a block of if statements, yeah, there could be more than one else appearing within the entire block of code, but one if statement can have at most one else statement. So the one on line 20 goes with line 18. The one on line 26 goes with the one on line 15. Okay, anybody? Any other questions?
What would that output look like if you have an if statement like within an if statement?
Well, how about I draw an if statement inside an if statement. Now let's take a look at that. Change the share. Okay, good. So here's the code that comes before. And the way I had it there is if num be consistent and use my diamonds. Okay, so num equals 17 question mark. And one path if false, and another path if true. Now, in this case, I have a nested if statement. So that means the true path of the first decision comes to another decision. And this one was today is Tuesday. And that will have a true and a false path. Why is the iPad? I'm busy moving. Oh, there, finally it moved. Now it stops again. Okay. So this said, yay, it's Tuesday. And that was the true here. And this one was the false. And that said, boo-hoo. And then these join up together. And I think as I wrote it, you can take a look at your screen, or perhaps you have to look at my screen. The way I wrote it, that would be it. Now, to complete the picture, the other ones was if num, oh, forgive me. Let me go back to, I was num 19, not 17. So I'm going to just fix that. Okay, so here's my eraser. And that was a 19. Because it's important that I do that, because now I'll show you the elif. And that was a 17. Okay, does that answer the question for you?
Yes, thank you.
Forgive me. Okay, any other questions about if? Because we have an assignment that we're doing. Go, please.
Oh, sorry. I was just I was wondering, so if you have kind of like a series of lines like that, you should have just like one if, and then like all the other ones should be elif, and then an else. Like you shouldn't have more than one if.
Well, it depends on what you're trying to express. If you're trying to choose between one of several choices that are mutually exclusive, then if elif and a number of elifs is what you want. So if you're talking about this or that, then it's if and else. But if it's this, do that. If it's that, do this. If it's that, do this. Then it's if elif. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So a picture, you're welcome. A picture that might describe an if elif. Imagine you had a big rotary knob that has a pointer on it. And that's a rotary knob, and the knob can go this way or this way. So you just dial it into the setting that you want. So if this is the code coming in, an if elif might be, choice number 1, choice number 2, choice number 3. So choice number 1, 2, and 3 are all mutually exclusive, just the way this knob presents itself. So the knob can be pointing at only one path out through the code. So that's like if, elif, as many as you have. Okay. I'm real happy with the questions that you're asking. Thank you. Are there any more? Okay, then I'm going to present the web browser, and let's take a look at our in the class. Wait a minute. We're looking at our in-class exercise of ages. And that would be here. So write a program that asks for 2 ages. Remember, those are intended to be integers. So you have to do, if you see the words conversion of a string to int, input returns strings. And in order to treat that string as an integer, you have to do the conversion using int. Okay, so this is where we left last time. So why don't we take a look? Now you had time to work on this last class. Do I remember correctly? Did you have some time to work on this? No? Okay. That's the trouble of a combination of being old and decrepit and having 2 classes that do the same work. Okay, so I'd like you to write a program that asks for 2 ages that need to be converted to integer. And then based upon those ages, 1 or more of these conditions can be recognized and then printed. So please go ahead and work on this. And I'll switch over to Replit. And I created another Python file called ages. And to execute this Python file, let me just do a quick demonstration. Okay, you go over to the shell and you will be able to do Python and then give it the name of a file to execute. Okay, and in that way I can execute perhaps main.py by giving its name, and there's a boo-boo in it, so don't worry about it. And using the up arrow, you can revisit the commands that you've typed. So that's up, up, then down, up, and I'm going to hit return or enter, and that runs ages.py. The way that I created a new file is using this tab and using add file. Okay, so why don't we help each other get started? Can you tell me how to do this line? Where the net result is I want to put an integer, I want to ask the user for input and convert the result from a string to integer and put the integer in age 1. Can anybody help me?
You do age1 equals input open parentheses int open parentheses, ask, put in the prompt in single or double quotations, and then
Okay.
close the parentheses.
All right, so thank you. I invite you to think about this. And what you know about parentheses from other parts of your life is, like from math classes, is that what happens inside in parentheses happens first. Right, so what I've written here, it kind of suggests that the input happens last. Does that sound right?
It does not. So the integer goes on the outside and the input goes on the inside?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the input will happen first, the results of input go to int. And the result of that is assigned to age 1. And let me make that a little prettier. Okay. So I wrote a little, why don't I test? So that's my mantra for you. Write a little, test a little. So I'll just print age 1. Okay, let's try that. So Python, let me check my file name, ages.py, and then I'm looking over here and I see ages.py. So I'm feeling good about life. Please enter one age, 39, and it printed 39. So write a little, test a little. And we'll just do the same thing with a different prompt. Okay. So now comes the parts where you need to start making some code that expresses these if statements. So how about the first one? If both ages are 16 or more, well, how would I test if age 1 was 16 or more? So let's just work on age 1. How would I do that? If
Could
If
you do, oh, sorry. Could you do age 1 and then the greater than symbol and the number 16?
Okay, perfect. Let's make it greater than or equal to, so 16 or greater.
Okay, yeah.
So that's greater than or equal to. And then a colon to finish the if statement. And let's just demonstrate. Okay, so this will be, let's just try a quick test, see if that works. 98. And print the other age. This one doesn't matter. So age 1 is greater than or equal to 16. Now let me demonstrate the failure of that if statement. So I entered 2 and line 5 was skipped. Okay, so here's code that tests age 1, but if you look at our specification, we want to see if both ages are 16 or more. So what does both sound like? Does both sound like or and?
And
Good. So let's put in and age 2 is greater than or equal to 16. And we can put in the proper output. Now, if we look at the specification, the next decision is mutually exclusive. So it's independent of the first decision, right? So the effect of that is I don't want to start typing an if statement here, because here it would be nested underneath that first test on line 4. So instead, because it's independent, I want to remove the indentation. And now my next if statement will be independent of line 4. And what's that one supposed to do? If either age, there's a typo, If either age is 25 or more, print at least one can rent a car. Wrong tab. So what does either sound like? Does that sound like and? Or?
Or,
Okay, good. So if age 1 is greater than or equal to 25, or age 2 is greater than or equal to 25, then we print at least one can rent a car. Okay, so we wrote a little, let's test a little, let's see what we've got so far. Age 1 is, well, we've got a few different choices here. So let's see if we can methodically go through the test cases. So how about both of them are less than 16? Good, nothing printed. How about the first age is greater than 25 and the second age is not? Okay, so the test on line 4 failed. You see that both can drive didn't print. And that's because age 1 greater than 16, yes. And age 2 greater than 16, that was false. So true and false means false. So line 5 is skipped. Let's look at the next one. If 90 is greater than or equal to 25, true. Or actually, since it's an or, we don't even have to test this because it's already satisfied. So line 8 is printed because at least one of age 1 and age 2 are greater than or equal to 25.
I have a question.
I would love to hear it.
All right, so I know that the next prompt that we have that we're supposed to put in is not connected. I'm thinking of the fourth one in our list of print these if this.
Okay, so this one?
Yes. The second and the last one are both asking about the ages of 25 or greater. Does that mean that for the last one, we're going to nest it under the one we just wrote?
No.
Okay.
I could see where you're coming from, though. That's a great question. It would actually, while it's technically possible to work it out that way, it would actually be harder. So we'll treat it separately.
Okay.
Okay, so this one is the same as the first one, so why bother? But let's do it anyway. If both ages are less than 35, print neither can be president. Okay, can you help me do it? You do have an example of a both here.
so let's see, if age 1 is less than 35 and age 2 is less than 35.
Good. Colon to end the conditions and print neither can be president. Good. Any questions about what we have so far? Okay, now the last one is a little bit harder because what it's asking is if there is exactly one. So if age 1 is 25 or greater, then the condition to succeed is age 2 must be less. Or if age 2 is 25 or greater, then age 1 must be less.
Can I try it?
Of course you can try it.
Okay, then we're going, I think what it should be is if age 1 is greater than or equal to 25 and age 2 is less than 25, and then we're going to have to elif with the opposite.
Yes, you
Maybe?
could do it that way.
Is it okay?
Yes. So why don't we finish it out the way that you've got it? Okay, and then I'll show you a different way.
Okay.
So to finish out Milo's plan, it would be something like this. But we need more code here because we need to check the flip side. So elif, which is what Milo said, age 2 is greater than or equal to 25 and age 1 is less than 25. And it would be the same thing. Okay? So Milo's method is correct. It does work. Let's try it. Let's do a test. So if one is greater than 25 and the other is less than 25. Okay, so two things printed. At least one can rent a car, and exactly one can be, let's see, I'm still in the meeting because my observer machine cut out because I'm getting a phone call. Should I answer it though? Yeah, I do. Let me answer this as people come into the house. Just a second. Hello, make this quick, please. Yes. Yes. Yes, thank you. And thank you for the confirmation. I have to go. Bye-bye. Thank you. The alarm system on my house is acting up. So they're coming tomorrow. I felt like Harrison Ford in the early part of the first Star Wars movie. Say, yes, we're fine here. The problem has gone away. Thank you. No problem. Bye. So, okay. There. All right, good. We're back. Now,
Shouldn't
I
the
would like,
printed statement be only one can be a senator instead of exactly one can be president?
why, what did I say? You see, I told you I'm old. Oh, okay. Yeah, only one can be senator. Yep. So only. And only one can be senator. Thanks very much. There, that's better. Okay. Now I'd like to show you another way of accomplishing this. So I'm going to leave that code there, no harm in that. That would be if, it begins the same way, but I'm going to use some parentheses and go like this. Okay, do you see what's going to happen here? So if age 1 is greater than or equal to 25 and age 2 is less than 25, and all of that's in parentheses. So the whole set of conditions inside the parentheses get calculated, and the result of all of this is either true or false. And you can then put that in to an or. So age 2 greater than or equal to 25 and age 1 less than 25. And let me see if I can make a little bit more room for you here. Good. No, still needs more. There. Okay. So let's make sure we get the same output. And I'll type in, this time, instead of 70 and 8, I'll do 8 and 70. Okay. So lines 13 through 16 do exactly the same thing as lines 18 and 19. So Milo, there's a way of combining your both of your conditions. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is introduce some new material. And before we write a program about it, let's try learning using just the interactive console. And if you remember clicking in here, this is an interactive console. So I could say print hi, and it will immediately do it. We're going to use the console. Let's take a peek at the specification for the project. So this is the project that's assigned. Let's go back to the top level of the class. Go to projects and P1. This is rock, paper, scissors. So what I want to demonstrate for you now or teach you about is using the random number generator, which is described in the spec. And I'd also need to teach you about lists. Okay, so coming back here, not everything is built into Python right from the start, right? So I mentioned to you that Python has hundreds, maybe thousands of libraries of pre-written Python code that do the most extraordinary things. One of those is a package that gives you access to different ways of using random numbers. And there's two ways of importing a package. Actually, there's more than two ways, but let's look at the first two ways. So if I try to use rand int, that's the name of the function I want, but you see it's not defined yet. So we'll import the package to which randint belongs. So import random, and now I'll try randint. Still doesn't work. Okay, so if you import random, then you do have all access to everything that random provides. It's just that you have to name it explicitly. Let me go here and add a prepend. So from the package random, use the function randint. Okay, so if you simply say import package name, then to use anything from the package, you have to repeat the package name, and that's kind of a drag. So there's a different way of importing. You could say from random import randint. So this is a little different. The first one says import everything from random. But then you have to prepend each use of a service from random with the name of the package. Using this other technique, I'm going to reach into the package random and pull out rand int so that here on, I can leave off the random dot and I can simply say rand int 0 to 9. Okay. So rand int requires two parameters, the first one being the smallest value to generate, and the second one being the largest value to generate. So give me a random number between 1 and 100. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Do you have to import random first and then you can say from random import randint? Or can you just say from random import randint without importing random first?
You're correct. Yes, you can. So I did it both ways, only for demonstration purposes.
Okay.
In practice, you choose one way or the other.
Okay.
Is there a way to generate multiple numbers, or does it just do one at a time?
Well, yes, there are ways to generate multiple random numbers. There are many different ways of generating multiple random numbers. But before we do that, we should cover some other things first. Okay. Now, also, maybe it's worth checking out this documentation for random. So I'll go here and say Python 3 or Python random package. All right, now the first thing I'm doing is making sure the Python it refers to is version 3. So I see the 3.91 here. I feel confident that this is good stuff. So I'll click on that, and there's a lot of words. So what we've just learned how to do is rand int. And I'll make this bigger. So it returns a random integer such that it's in between A and B inclusive. And if you look right above here, let's see, return a randomly selected element. Nope, that's not it. Okay, let's move on. Because I do need to show you something else. Okay, so rock, paper, scissors. We want to be able to check the user's input against rock and paper and scissors. And what's more, when we want to choose the computer's turn, the computer's choice, it needs to be randomly chosen from those three values. So I'd like to introduce you to another fundamental way of dealing with data in Python, and that is the list. Now this is the letter L, not a 1. So here is how one creates an empty list. So lists are always denoted by brackets, square brackets. So what is the contents of L? An empty list. If I were to create it again, I could also choose to initially populate the list with, let's say, string A, comma, string B, comma, or how about a true So you see that in the same list, you can have different types of data. And how about 82.87? Close bracket. So now what is the value of L? L is a list. Some important features of list is knowing how long it is, how many members are in it. And that would be our friend, LEN. What is the length of L? Predictions? Good. Good. So now, how do you get access to the individual members of the list? Well, it's kind of like an array where you could say L sub 0. Notice the brackets are in there. So this says, give me the 0th item in the list. And prediction, what this will print?
A.
Yep. Good. And how about, how would I get B? L 1. So the members of the list can be accessed starting at 0. Computer scientists, for some reason, always start counting at 0. I do know why, but let's make believe it's a mystery. Okay. So how about this one? Do you think this will end in tears? Okay, the index was out of range. But what about this one? Any guesses?
Is it going to take the, I don't remember what the fancy math word is for it, but is it going to take 1 because 1 is the integer?
No, remember that the -1 in this case is being used as the index into the list L. So we saw that L sub 0, or putting the 0 in between the brackets, that gave us the first item. And L1 gave us the second item. Now I'm suggesting, what do you think? I'm asking, what do you think will happen if I do -1? Because we saw that going out of range gave us an error. So I said L 234, and that was an error. So what do you think L -1 would be?
Correct, but there's some math thing that you use brackets where it takes, if you put in a negative number, it takes the
Yes.
positive
Right,
of it.
the absolute value, that's
That's
not
the
this.
one.
Yep, that's not this.
Okay. If it's not going to take that, I think it's going to be an error.
Okay, let's see. Whoa. So what do negative numbers do?
Goes backwards in the list.
They count from the end. All right, so how about -2? What do you think that'll give us?
True.
Good. Hey, this worked. This didn't work before. Let's see if it works for negatives. So let's try -234.
So
Okay,
when
so-
you start counting, you start at 0, but if you're starting at the end of the list, you can do -1 instead of 0. I guess -0 doesn't
Because
make
0,
sense,
yeah,
but-
0 is already taken. Right. Okay, so the full contents of L is 4 members. What if I wanted to add another one? Let's say, can you think of how one might append a value to this list? It's one of my famous white horse questions. how would you append to the list? L dot append okay, now print the contents of L. Now you can append, you can prepend, you can insert in the middle. I'll leave that to the reading, okay? And you can even remove, you can delete members of a list. Any questions?
Can you or do you have to delete all, or can you just assign the list to something else? Like if you want to completely erase everything in the list and start over, would you just do L single equals and then a new list?
Yes, that's one way. There's also an erase.
Okay. Well, I was wondering about like the whole thing, so.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Right. Rock, paper, scissors. Let's get our focus back to this project. So suppose we had a list that contained rock, paper, and scissors. Just like we have a list here that has A, B, true, 82.87, and a string more. So our goal is figuring out how to choose the computer's move. And that is to choose one of these list members at random. Okay, now there's more than one way of doing it, but we've introduced something called randint. And what would our parameters to randint need to be? So randint, and what would the first value have to be able to choose any one of these at random?
0.
0.
Excellent. Comma. And what would the biggest number need to be? Now, I see some hands saying 5, and 5 is correct. However, would 5 still be correct if we did another append? No, then it would be 6. So instead of us as a human being counting how many members are in the list, let's let Python count. Okay? But there is a problem here. Can anybody put 2 and 2 together and see the problem with what I have so far? Let's try length 5. See, 5 is the last one there. That's an index error because it is 0. Can you see my highlighting? 1, 2, 3, 4. So to do this right, I really want to do length minus 1. So now I'll get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, a total of 5 values, but in the right range. Okay. Now we're generating an integer between 0 and the length of the list minus 1. So if I surround that with an access to the list, not very random, but it is random. There, we got all the values. Okay, so think of this as choosing the computer's move from rock, paper, or scissors. Okay? And where we are in the specification. So we've talked about importing random, randint. And we've used randint to select, to generate a random index. And we feed that index into the list, and that gives us a random entry in the list. Okay? So one of the things you need to do is detect if the user enters, now we're talking about the user's choice of rock, paper, or scissors. If they enter butter, it's a bad choice. So we've already got, rather than doing an if the user input is rock, or the user input is paper, or the user input is scissors, it's much cleaner to say, use this in construct. So here's our list. And let's say true in L. That's true. Well, how about false in L? And that's false. Okay, how about this? How about this? How about this? How about the letter A in L? That's true. How about the letter Z in L? That's false. Okay. So going back to the specification. So what I just showed you is in and also not in. Let's demonstrate that. I just did Z in L. How about Z not in L? That's true. Anybody have any questions?
If we're making this for rock, paper, scissors, are we allowed to say if R, like can we make R equals rock, S equals scissors, P equals paper, enter RPS?
Well, I'd like you to use the full words.
Okay.
So, and the reason for that is this is one of those wonderful examples where I can legitimately say, why? Because I said so. And it works. Yeah. But technically, sure, Colin, you could, as the program designer, choose not to use the words rock, paper, or scissors. As the program's designer, you could use R, S, and P. That's true. Okay. All right, so let's turn to the project. Write a little, test a little. Write a little, test a little. So if you'd like to take the remainder of this class period and work on your project, okay? And I'm here to answer your questions. And also feel encouraged to talk out loud and let your colleagues in the class hear your thought process, or ask questions to your colleagues in the class. Work together. Okay?
I have a quick question.
Please.
So are we making the program in Replit and then we just can send the file to you from there, or?
Exactly.
Okay.
Professor.
Yes.
Hi, I just got into this class yesterday, so I sent you an email. I don't know if you saw it, and I just got access to the Schoology today. I was wondering what program we are using to write the code during class.
This is a website called repl.it. So Replit.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're quite welcome. Please make an account. Please make an account, and you could use any email address you want, but I suggest using your carthage.edu email address. The reason I suggest using your Carthage is someday Replit might choose to start charging people, but when that day comes, .edu addresses are likely to remain cheaper or free. Now, some other things. Now, I didn't. Olivia, is that who's talking?
Yeah, sorry, I got put back on mute.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. But the reason why I had trouble is your name is obscured by another part of the Zoom interface. So I had to look very closely. So Olivia, some of the other things that you need to know is I'm going to put this website into the chat.
Okay.
And you want to bookmark that. Let's go back to Chitty Chat. Chat. Okay. Okay. And now, is this Gabriel or Gabriel?
It's a Gabriel.
Okay, Gabriel. Okay, so Gabriel, these instructions are for you too.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, and I just sent the link only to you, so let me send the link to everybody. That's where the class GitHub page is, and that's where I will assign that I assign the projects and homework on Schoology, but this is where you'll find them defined.
Yeah, I think that'd be easier. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Milo.
When we're writing the code in the file that we're going to use in the shell mode, do we have to put like at the top import or from random import randint?
That is a great question. The answer is yes. So
okay.
I'm going to go here and I'm going to say add a file. And maybe I'll call it P1 for project1.py. And let's also, how would you hand it in? Here's the copy a link. And let's see, is that the best way of handing in the file? I suppose. So let's see, copy link. And what would that do? If I go here, that's not really helping me download the file, is it? Okay, so let's figure out how you hand in your file. Rename, open tab, copy link, and delete. How would you hand this in? Good question. And settings won't help. Okay. All right.
Sorry, when I was looking at it before to see how to turn it in, it looks like if you make like a different file thing, and then you click like the three dots where it says like files, and then it has like the add file and add folder, there you can download a zip.
Oh, there it is. Now, so you can download everything as a zip file. So it's kind of a if you wanted to hand in just P1 Okay, if you wanted to hand in only that, you'll still download a zip and allow. And I'll just take a quick peek at what's in there. Yes, and it downloads everything. So if you wanted to be kind to your poor decrepit instructor, you could, using your normal browser interface, your computer interface, you could pull the one file out and submit just that one file. But I won't be too cross with you if you just give me the whole zip file, the whole zip. Actually, that's going to get worse over time because you're going to have a lot of data files and a lot of other things. So let me give you a different set of instructions. Okay, so I'm going to delete this.
Would we be able to, doing that, putting it into a zip file, is that the entire REPL itself?
That was everything, yeah.
So could we just make a new REPL?
Exactly, that's what I was going to get at next.
There you go.
Okay, so that would be new REPL and select Python, and we'll give it a name of P1. Okay, and finally, getting back to Milo's question, we can start this one by saying, well, first, what's your name? Okay, that's the #, my name, put in your name. And how about from random import rand int? Okay, you can get started on your project. I'll bring the project back up. So you click on projects, P1, and here's the specification. Also, if you should find any problems in my specifications, please let me know. I'd be happy to fix those problems.
Sorry, Professor, I have another question about the homework website, I think it is.
Yeah, please.
So, or the, not the homework, but the GitHub thing. So for the in-class things, folders that you add, are those actual like do things, or those things that we follow along and do during class?
Exactly. As the name suggests, those are exercises for doing in class.
Okay.
And
then
nothing needs to be handed in.
Okay. And then the projects will be handed in through Schoology?
Correct. Now your readings, there's nothing you need to hand in for your readings. You just do the reading and I can get a report. Good heavens, what did that just do? Okay. So the readings, you'll need to get a login and buy the book at zybooks.com, zybooks.com. And in the syllabus are the instructions to buy the book. Have you found the syllabus, Olivia?
Yeah, I
Colin?
was looking over it this morning before class. I created an account. I just need to actually purchase the book.
Good, good. Okay.
And then I was also looking at the Schoology. So all of the homework that are due, are those going to be just the readings?
Yes.
Okay.
And occasionally a project.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor.
Yes.
So yeah, I already made an account on the Zybooks earlier today as well, and I already purchased the book.
Good.
I also made a REPL.it account already, and I also made a GitHub account. Was that supposed to do that as well? A GitHub?
Well, the GitHub account wasn't necessary, but it's not going to hurt.
Okay. Okay. I signed up for it. I thought we needed it. So
Okay. Now, as it happens, you don't need the GitHub account because I imagine you're only using it to look at the class webpage for this class. And I made it public so that even people without GitHub accounts can see the pages.
okay. Okay, got you.
Thank you for asking those questions, Gabriel. And I meant Gabriel before when I most recently used Colin.
Thank you.
All right, so back to the project. Does anybody have any questions? Now, if you go down here, by the way, I have kind of an outline. So maybe if you could knock off one of these at a time. If you have questions, happy to answer them. There. All right. Gotcha. Yeah. Here's Fredo. Fredo's 4 months old. Hey, Fredo.
Oh, hi, Fredo.
That's a puppy.
Okay. And let me put her down because she's decided it's time to go down. Okay. There. The Fredo's 4 months old. Absolute terror. Hey, anybody have any questions about getting started or doing the work?
I mean, I have a couple questions, but I don't know how to present them.
You mean articulate them or share the screen for them, or what do you mean?
Articulate them.
Okay. What does it have to do with?
I guess I'll start one of them off with, I keep getting this one syntax error, and no matter what I change, it just keeps remaining that way.
Okay, so so I'm presenting Replit. Would you be willing to show your screen? Is it safe to do that? So I'll stop my share. And if you're willing, you can show your screen and we'll help you out.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, make sure it's right.
Okay, it's going. All right. Can someone from the class identify what the error is? Okay, by the way, your code is looking good so far.
Thanks.
I think it's that none of the ifs have anything to do yet.
Okay, there's one excellent answer.
So like it says if rock, but then the computer doesn't know what to do if rock.
Right.
Thing is, I
So
put statements under them, but even before I got rid of them, it was still a syntax error.
got it, got it.
Did you remember to put the colon?
Put it where?
At the end of the if statement?
That's an excellent observation, Sydney. Thank you.
You named your input RPS, but then you're saying if the user choice equals it, shouldn't it be if RPS equals?
Excellent observation. Excellent. You guys are outstanding. Okay, so let's start. There's one more that nobody's talked about yet. Can you see one more thing that's going wrong?
If it's this, it's because I'm just putting that there, just so I can remember to use it.
Nope, I hadn't seen that yet. I didn't see that yet.
It's not letting me get rid of the highlights.
So if you want to leave that there, how about the first character on line 17 being an octothorpe?
Say that again?
You're looking at me, a what? Does anybody know what an octothorpe is?
Hashtag.
Yeah, it's what you youngsters call a hashtag. Okay.
I can't believe I didn't know that.
All right. So, but I'm seeing something on line 8 and 10 and 12 that nobody's talked about yet.
There's no colon after.
Yes, somebody mentioned that. That was
It
excellent.
should also be a double equal sign instead of one.
Yes, Catherine, thank you.
Thing is, even when I did that, it was still a syntax error.
Well, let's fix one thing at a time. So go ahead and change that to the double equals. Yep, uh-huh.
I don't
And
know.
now, how about adding in the colon? Good. And you see the red line moved. That's progress. Good, good. Now on line 9, hit tab and type in PASS and see what happens. The red line moved again.
No, how do you, okay.
Okay.
Trying to move this
So-
because the camera's in the way.
So an if statement isn't correct until it has a body. And line 9, we added like a dummy body. So the word pass is a Python keyword, and it says don't do anything, take up space. So if you were to add pass on line 11, let's see what happens. Tab.
Should I
and
do the same
pass.
for 13?
And now see what happens on line 13. Yeah, good. Okay. And now you got way more problems. But it did run. Let's see. Please enter rock, paper, or scissors. So, okay, good. Now, when you go to add more code, you'll need to replace each PASS with more code.
May I ask a thing?
Of course you can ask a thing.
Does user choice mean whatever you put in the input?
Yeah, so there's still, that was one of the problems pointed out, is on line 2, Colin, you're assigning into RPS, but maybe then if you look, you're not using RPS, you're using user choice. So I tell you what, I think the easiest thing to do is to replace RPS with user underscore choice.
Fine.
And that just means less editing. Now also on line 4.
4. Up.
And let's see what you get.
All right.
Okay, your program ran. Okay, now the green lines there, I think on line 5, REPL wants you to put that as the first line. So if you move it from there. Oh, and also, no, actually you don't, that's not what it means. It means you haven't used randint. You went through the trouble of importing it, but you haven't actually used it. That's why it's green line. Okay. Good. So we solved your problems, and thank you to everyone in the class for helping out.
Okay, and you know what? I think I had a couple more questions, but my biggest one was, how do you're probably going to want me to find this out by myself, but how do I get the computer to put in rock, paper, scissors? Not the user, the computer itself.
Yeah, the computer's choice. Okay, so on line 6, you create a list containing rock, paper, and scissors. And what we studied a little bit earlier in this lesson is how to select an item from a list at random.
Right.
So so we did that a little earlier, and that would be using the randint. So if I can encourage you to watch the video when it's posted and skip forward to where we're talking about randint, and you'll have your answer.
All right.
Okay, you can stop sharing.
Okay, you know what? One last question. Nothing to do with this, but
yeah.
If Should we wait until Thursday to finish this, or do we have all the knowledge we need to do it?
You have all the knowledge you need.
Okay,
And this project is due when?
26th.
Okay.
Okay, get off my screen.
Okay. Questions from anyone else? Catherine, I know you're there because you offered some great input. Lee, do you have any questions? Can you show me a sign of life? And Colin P. and Kieran Rains. I know Gabriel's there because he was talking. I know Olivia's there because she was talking. Oh, I see Lee is there because he told me my dog was cute, which means he gets an A in the class.
Sorry, did you ask something? You were just glitching out on my computer.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm glitching in real life and you're only seeing that. You're seeing accurate representation. So yeah, I was just calling out the folks who have their cameras off, just trying to make sure they're there.
Oh, okay.
Hi, we know I'm here because I ask so many questions.
Yep, yep.
Is it case sensitive?
Python is case sensitive.
Okay, because like, so are we just going to assume that the user is going to put in like a capital R O C K? Or should we?
Yeah, please assume for now that the user puts in the right case.
Okay.
Do you mind if we have our camera off? Because sometimes my Wi-Fi just isn't great when I have my camera on.
Well, my preference is for camera on. However, I do understand what you're saying. So my goal is only to get feedback from the class. So if you're able to partake in the conversation, that's more than adequate.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome.
My camera, I have an old laptop, so sometimes it works and then sometimes it doesn't. So I'm sorry if my camera's off. It's usually because my laptop decided to be funky today.
Okay.
So,
So yeah, so if you participate by voice, that satisfies all of my insecurities, and I feel validated and happy.
awesome. Cool.
I'm sorry, Lee. But even by participating by chat, I know you're there.
Okay, just to make sure, will the video that you just told me about be posted to Schoology or Zybooks or GitHub?
It will be posted to none of the above, yet another website, YouTube. Let me put into the chat a link to the playlist on YouTube where you'll find all videos for this class. So I'm gonna be busy for a moment and I'll be right back to you.
Fine.
So let's go to YouTube. And now I have to find the playlist. The YouTube user interface is not all that good. My videos, playlists. And here. I'm almost there. Good, I got it. Here comes the link in the chat. Try that again. Here comes the link in the chat. And also let me email you the link. That's easy enough to do. Go here. Nope. Maybe that's not so easy to do, but I'll figure it out. Okay. All right, almost there. Okay. So we have 3 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you want us to wait till the due date or can we turn it in early?
If you are, I would encourage you to wait because you might come up with some new ideas or realize that you did something wrong. But if you're totally committed to handing it in, go right ahead.
Do you want each statement to end in proper punctuation, or do you not care if it ends in a period or not?
Oh, that's minor, so I don't care.
Okay.
But thank you for asking.
In hopes to not make you feel rushed, when will that video be uploaded?
Well, I'll get an email from, it's a multi-step process. And what I can promise is it should be there by the end of the day.
Got it.
Right. Because I'll get an email pretty soon that says the video is ready, but then it takes some number of hours before the subtitles are ready. And I won't upload it until I get the subtitles.
And YouTube's a worse place to upload than I thought, or more tedious at least.
Well, we do it this way because there's just not enough, students don't need to know enough passwords. So we do it this way just to add one more site and password that you have to keep track of.
Like I thought it was just, you click upload and it may take a couple hours to upload.
The delay, then YouTube has time that it wants to take to modify the video into a format they prefer.
All right.
So it's not fast, but I will get it up there.
There.
Thank you very much for being here today. Your participation was wonderful. I appreciate it to a great deal. And we'll see you on Thursday. Milo, do you have a question?
Yeah, I have one more question before we leave.
Okay.
If I'm getting the computer to read the input, do I have to put parentheses around it when I put like user input, or if user input equals parentheses around?
No, the function call input uses parentheses.
Correct.
But it sounds like you're asking about when you have collected the user input and you want to compare it to rock or compare it to scissors. No, there's no parentheses there, but it is a equals equals, right? So a double equals.
There you go. That's the problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, folks. The anointed minute has come, has arrived. So sadly, we have to say goodbye. I'll stick around for 6.8 more seconds in case there's a question.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye,
Okay, see you
everyone.
on-
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, see you Thursday. Bye-bye.